As the war intensifies, Ahsoka Tano steps into her own as a leader. Once the impetuous Padawan, overshadowed by Anakin's larger-than-life presence, she now commands her own missions with precision and ingenuity. In a key moment, she returns to the Jedi Temple after a daring assault on a separatist outpost. During a debriefing with the Jedi Council, Ahsoka boldly proposes an unconventional strategy to outmaneuver a growing separatist fleet. Her approach is met with skepticism from the Council, who question whether her inexperience clouds her judgment. Anakin, standing at her side, intervenes. His voice carries a mix of pride and defiance as he defends her insights, framing her actions as a necessary evolution of wartime tactics. This moment marks a turning point. Ahsoka is no longer just Anakin's student. She's becoming his equal, a leader who earns respect on her own terms. Later, as they walk through the temple halls, Anakin turns to Ahsoka, his tone softer than usual.
You've come a long way, Snips. The Council may not always see it, but I do. You remind me why I still fight.
Ahsoka, touched by his words, thanks him, adding that his belief in her has always been her guiding star. Fate intervenes when Anakin and Ahsoka are sent on a high-risk mission to rescue a captured platoon of clones deep behind enemy lines. The mission is fraught with danger, and as they approach the target planet, their transport is ambushed by separatist forces. The ship crashes in the wilderness of a barren, hostile world, leaving them cut off from reinforcements and their remaining troops scattered. Alone and without resources, Anakin and Ahsoka must rely on each other to survive. As they traverse the desolate terrain, their dynamic begins to shift. The camaraderie they've always shared takes on a deeper, more personal dimension. Anakin's protective nature is on full display as he shields Ahsoka from separatist patrols, while Ahsoka's resourcefulness shines as she devises a way to send a distress signal using scavenged parts from their wrecked ship. Despite the tension and danger, moments of levity creep in, shared jokes, mutual encouragement, and a growing realization that their trust in one another goes beyond duty. One night, as they camp in the ruins of an ancient temple under a crimson-hued sky, the weight of their circumstances presses down on them. Anakin, uncharacteristically quiet, gazes at the flickering flames of their makeshift fire. Ahsoka, sensing his unease, hesitates before asking,
"What's on your mind, Master?"
Anakin, after a long silence, begins to speak. He tells her about his mother, Shmi Skywalker, and the pain of losing her, a wound that never truly healed. He speaks of his constant fear of failure, of being unable to protect those he loves. His words are veiled, but Ahsoka senses there's more he's not saying. Anakin's vague references to a forbidden love, a secret he keeps even from her, linger in the air. Ahsoka listens intently, her usual boldness replaced by quiet empathy. In turn, she opens up about her own fears. She confesses that despite her growing confidence as a leader, she sometimes feels overwhelmed by the expectations placed upon her. She admits to questioning the Jedi Code, wondering if its strictures stifle the very connections that make life meaningful.
"The Jedi say we're not supposed to feel attachment,"
she says, her voice barely above a whisper.
"But isn't attachment what gives us strength? What makes us fight for others?"
Anakin looks at her, his expression unreadable. For the first time, he sees not just a Padawan, but someone who truly understands his struggles, someone who shares the same doubts and fears. The vulnerability they share in that moment creates a quiet but undeniable intimacy, one neither of them fully comprehends yet. Their journey through the wilderness continues, but something has changed. Anakin finds himself watching Ahsoka more closely, not with the critical eye of a teacher, but with a growing appreciation for her resilience, her wit, and the way she faces challenges head-on. Ahsoka, in turn, begins to see Anakin as more than just her mentor. She admires his strength, but also his compassion and his unwavering determination to protect those he cares about. By the time they are rescued and return to the Republic fleet, both Anakin and Ahsoka are left to grapple with the unspoken connection that has begun to form between them. For Anakin, it's another secret to add to the growing weight he carries. For Ahsoka, it's a source of confusion, a feeling she can't quite name but can't ignore. The seeds of connection have been planted, and though neither of them fully understands the implications, their bond has already begun to grow into something that will challenge the Jedi Order, the war, and their own sense of who they are. As the war presses on, Anakin and Ahsoka find themselves increasingly drawn together, their connection deepening through shared experiences and unspoken understanding. However, this growing bond begins to cast long shadows over their lives, challenging their beliefs, their responsibilities, and the Jedi Code itself. While the galaxy teeters on the brink of chaos, the two must navigate the complexities of their emotions and the consequences of a love that could unravel everything they stand for. The Clone Wars demand more of Anakin and Ahsoka than ever before. Each mission brings new dangers, and with every victory, the cost of the war becomes more evident. Anakin continues to push himself to his limits, his recklessness bordering on self-destruction as he takes increasingly dangerous risks to protect those under his command. Ahsoka, no longer a wide-eyed Padawan, often steps in to temper his impulses, her steadying presence acting as a counterbalance to his fiery determination. During one pivotal battle on the war-ravaged world of Arcanis, the two are sent on a covert mission to dismantle a separatist superweapon hidden deep within enemy territory. The mission requires them to infiltrate the heart of enemy operations with only a small team of clone troopers. Along the way, they face overwhelming odds, including a deadly ambush that leaves them stranded once more. Forced to rely on each other for survival, the intensity of the mission brings them closer than ever before. They share moments of vulnerability in the quiet aftermath of battle, their conversations drifting into topics they rarely allow themselves to think about. Ahsoka asks Anakin if he ever imagines a life beyond the war, beyond the Jedi Order. Anakin, visibly torn, admits that he dreams of peace but struggles to see a future for himself outside of duty and conflict. Ahsoka, for the first time, wonders aloud if the Jedi way is truly the best path for them both. Back on Coruscant, the tension between them becomes harder to ignore. Anakin begins to withdraw from his secret marriage to Padme, burdened by the guilt of his growing feelings for Ahsoka. Meanwhile, Ahsoka finds herself increasingly troubled by the complexity of her emotions. She seeks guidance from Plo Koon, the Jedi Master who brought her to the Order, but his advice only reinforces the importance of detachment and the dangers of attachment. Her doubts about the Jedi Code deepen, and she begins to question whether the Order's strict rules truly serve the greater good. The strain on their relationship comes to a head when Ahsoka is injured during a mission to rescue a captured Republic senator. Anakin's reaction is immediate and visceral. He abandons the mission's objectives to ensure Ahsoka's safety, putting countless lives at risk in the process. The clones under his command are left stunned by his actions, and even Ahsoka, as she regains consciousness, is taken aback by the intensity of his concern.
You can't do that, Anakin.
She tells him later, her voice tinged with frustration and fear.
You can't put everything on the line for me. It's not what we're supposed to do.
Anakin's response is raw and unfiltered.
I can't lose you, Ahsoka, not you.
The weight of his words hangs between them, unspoken but undeniable. Unbeknownst to them, Palpatine has begun to take notice of Anakin's shifting emotions. The Sith Lord, always watching for weakness to exploit, senses the bond between Anakin and Ahsoka and begins to manipulate it for his own ends. During a private meeting, Palpatine praises Anakin's loyalty and his willingness to do whatever it takes to protect those he cares about. He subtly plants the idea that love and attachment are not weaknesses but strengths, tools that can be used to shape the galaxy. At the same time, Palpatine begins to sow seeds of doubt in Ahsoka's mind, arranging for her to overhear conversations that paint the Jedi Order as cold, unfeeling, and increasingly corrupt. When Ahsoka discovers that the Council has made decisions that cost innocent lives for the sake of military strategy, her disillusionment deepens. She confides in Anakin, who shares her frustrations, further strengthening their bond. The turning point comes during a diplomatic mission to the neutral planet of Serenus, where Anakin and Ahsoka are tasked with brokering peace between warring factions. The mission goes awry when separatist forces ambush the negotiations, forcing Anakin and Ahsoka to lead a desperate defense. In the chaos, the two are separated from their allies and find themselves trapped in the labyrinthine caves beneath the planet's surface. As they search for a way out, the weight of their feelings becomes impossible to ignore. In the flickering light of a cave torch, Ahsoka confronts Anakin about his recent behavior, accusing him of being reckless and putting her above everything else. Anakin, unable to contain himself, admits the truth. He's fallen in love with her. Ahsoka is stunned, her own feelings rushing to the surface in a torrent of confusion and longing. For a moment, the war, the Jedi, and the galaxy seem to fade away as they stand face to face, caught between duty and desire. But before either can say another word, they are attacked by a group of separatist droids, forcing them to bury their emotions once more as they fight their way to safety. By now, the bond between Anakin and Ahsoka has grown into something both beautiful and dangerous. They are no longer just master and apprentice, nor are they simply comrades in arms. Their connection defies the Jedi Code and threatens to unravel the fragile balance of their lives. As the galaxy around them descends further into darkness, they are left to grapple with the consequences of their feelings and the choices they must make. Anakin begins to question the Jedi Order's rigid adherence to detachment, while Ahsoka struggles to reconcile her growing disillusionment with the path she has chosen. Both are haunted by the knowledge that their love, if acted upon, could destroy everything they've fought to protect. Yet, in their hearts, they know that their connection is something they cannot ignore. As they prepare for the battles to come, the seeds of their eventual reckoning are sown. With the Clone Wars escalating and the galaxy teetering on the edge of chaos, the bond between Anakin and Ahsoka deepens into a forbidden love that they struggle to suppress. As the Jedi Order faces mounting political pressure and internal fractures, Anakin and Ahsoka find themselves walking an increasingly precarious line between duty and desire. The choices they make in the shadows not only test their resolve, but also draw them closer to a reckoning that will change their lives forever. The war becomes more brutal with each passing day. The Jedi Council, stretched thin and burdened by political interference from the Senate, begins to make decisions that conflict with the ideals of the Jedi Order. Anakin and Ahsoka, deployed on increasingly dangerous missions, bear witness to the devastating consequences of these choices. Villages are destroyed, civilians are caught in the crossfire, and the lines between heroism and tyranny blur. On a mission to the Outer Rim world of Oradon Prime, they are tasked with liberating a mining colony from Separatist occupation. The operation turns into a bloodbath as the Separatists use the colony's inhabitants as human shields. Forced to make an impossible decision, Anakin orders the clones to press the attack, resulting in heavy casualties on both sides. Afterward, he is haunted by guilt, and Ahsoka struggles to reconcile the loss of innocent lives with their broader mission to bring peace to the galaxy. Amid the chaos, Anakin and Ahsoka find solace in one another. They share stolen moments of quiet reflection, their connection growing stronger as they try to make sense of a galaxy spiraling out of control. Ahsoka becomes Anakin's anchor, grounding him when his anger threatens to consume him, while Anakin offers Ahsoka the reassurance and strength she needs to endure the horrors of war. The weight of their feelings begins to manifest in small but noticeable ways. Anakin becomes increasingly protective of Ahsoka, sometimes recklessly so, putting himself and others at risk to ensure her safety. His behavior does not go unnoticed. Obi-Wan, ever perceptive, grows suspicious of the bond between them. He confronts Anakin, cautioning him against forming attachments that could lead him down a dangerous path. Anakin, torn between his loyalty to Obi-Wan and his love for Ahsoka, deflects the conversation, insisting that he has everything under control. Meanwhile, Ahsoka finds herself questioning the Jedi Code more openly. She seeks counsel from Yoda, who speaks cryptically about the dangers of attachment and the importance of letting go. Though his words are wise, they fail to address the emotional turmoil Ahsoka is experiencing. Her disillusionment with the Order deepens, and she begins to wonder if the Jedi are truly the paragons of peace and justice they claim to be. The secrecy of their relationship takes a toll on both of them. Anakin, already burdened by his hidden marriage to Padme, feels the strain of living a double life. Ahsoka, caught between her feelings for Anakin and her duty to the Jedi, wrestles with guilt and fear. They both know the risks, yet their connection feels as inevitable as the rising sun. Chancellor Palpatine, ever the cunning manipulator, senses the turmoil within Anakin. He begins to subtly exploit Anakin's feelings for Ahsoka, framing them as a source of strength rather than weakness. During private meetings, Palpatine praises Anakin's passion and loyalty, suggesting that the Jedi Order's rigid rules are holding him back from reaching his full potential. He hints that there are paths outside the Jedi Code that could allow Anakin to protect those he loves without compromise. At the same time, Palpatine begins to target Ahsoka. Through carefully orchestrated events, he ensures that she is exposed to the darker underbelly of the Republic. The corruption, the greed, and the moral compromises made in the name of victory. He plants seeds of doubt in her mind, framing the Jedi as enablers of a broken system rather than its saviors. Ahsoka begins to question whether the Jedi can truly bring peace to the galaxy, or if their allegiance to the Republic has blinded them to a greater truth. The breaking point comes during a mission to the storm-shrouded planet of Valtora, where Anakin and Ahsoka are tasked with protecting a vital Republic supply route from Separatist forces. After a grueling battle that pushes them to their limits, they take shelter in a hidden cavern to regroup. Exhausted and vulnerable, the walls they've built around their feelings finally crumble. Anakin confesses the depth of his love for Ahsoka, admitting that he can no longer pretend to feel otherwise. Ahsoka, torn between her own emotions and the teachings of the Jedi, hesitates before revealing that she feels the same. For a moment, They give in to their feelings, sharing a tender, forbidden kiss that signifies both the strength of their bond and the magnitude of the risk they are taking. As the storm outside rages, Ahsoka pulls away, her voice trembling.
What happens if they find out? What happens if we lose everything?
I don't care about the code, I care about you.
But even as he says the words, a shadow of doubt crosses his face. Both of them know that their love, as powerful as it is, could have devastating consequences. At this point, the bond between Anakin and Ahsoka has reached a critical juncture. Their love, once a source of strength, has become a dangerous secret that threatens to consume them. Anakin is drawn closer to the dark side, his fear of losing Ahsoka mirroring his fears for Padme. Ahsoka, disillusioned with the Jedi Order and uncertain of her place in the galaxy, begins to consider what a life outside the Order might look like. Unbeknownst to them, Palpatine's plans are nearing fruition. The Sith Lord watches from the shadows, confident that their love will serve as the catalyst for his ultimate goal, the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Sith. As the galaxy hurtles toward its breaking point, Anakin and Ahsoka must decide whether their love is worth the cost, and whether they can find a way to protect each other without sacrificing everything they hold dear. As war continues to ravage the galaxy, the forbidden love between Anakin and Ahsoka becomes a turning point, not only for their lives but for the fate of the Jedi Order itself. Their bond, once a source of strength, begins to fray under the weight of secrets, betrayal, and manipulation. Palpatine's schemes intensify, driving a wedge between them, and the dark side looms ever closer. The Jedi Council becomes increasingly suspicious of Anakin and Ahsoka. Obi-Wan, who has always cared deeply for both of them, notices subtle changes in their behavior. Anakin's growing impulsiveness and Ahsoka's growing disillusionment. He confronts Ahsoka privately, expressing his concern that her feelings for Anakin are clouding her judgment. Ahsoka, feeling cornered, denies the accusation, but begins to realize that their secret is becoming impossible to hide. At the same time, Anakin's frustration with the Council reaches a boiling point. Their decisions feel more political than moral, and their growing distrust of him fuels his resentment. When they reject his proposal to launch a rescue mission for a captured Republic outpost, citing the need for caution, Anakin defies their orders and takes Ahsoka and a small squad of clones to save the trapped soldiers. The mission is a success, but Anakin's recklessness and Ahsoka's complicity draw the Council's ire. Yoda and Mace Windu, sensing the turmoil within Anakin, begin to fear that his attachments are leading him down a dangerous path. They question his loyalty and his readiness to fulfill his role as the Chosen One. Anakin, feeling increasingly isolated, clings to Ahsoka as his only source of comfort and stability. Chancellor Palpatine seizes the opportunity to deepen the cracks in Anakin's faith in the Jedi. He summons Anakin to his office, feigning concern for his well-being. In a carefully crafted conversation, Palpatine praises Anakin's courage and passion, framing the Jedi Council as jealous and manipulative. He subtly hints that the Jedi fear Anakin's power and that their strict adherence to their code is what's preventing him from truly saving the ones he loves. Palpatine also begins to manipulate Ahsoka. Through intermediaries, he arranges for her to witness Republic senators engaging in corruption and war profiteering, planting seeds of doubt about the Republic's legitimacy. When Ahsoka begins to question these discoveries, Palpatine presents himself as an ally, someone who understands her frustrations with the Jedi and the Republic. He encourages her to think for herself, knowing that her growing doubts will alienate her from the Order and push Anakin further into his grasp. The breaking point comes during a mission to Corvaris, a remote world where separatist forces have established a secret weapons facility. The mission is a trap orchestrated by Palpatine, designed to exploit the growing divide between Anakin, Ahsoka, and the Jedi Order. As the mission unfolds, the separatists unleash a devastating attack, forcing the Jedi and their clones into a desperate fight for survival. In the chaos, Ahsoka discovers evidence that the Republic sanctioned the creation of similar weapons in secret. Shocked and horrified, she confronts Anakin, accusing him of knowing about the Republic's darker dealings. Anakin, torn between his loyalty to the Republic and his love for Ahsoka, denies any knowledge but becomes defensive, insisting that their mission is to end the war at all costs. Their argument escalates, with Ahsoka accusing Anakin of being blind to the corruption of the Republic, and Anakin accusing Ahsoka of losing faith in him. The tension between them reaches a fever pitch, and for the first time, their love feels fragile and uncertain. When they return to Coruscant, the Jedi Council summons Anakin and Ahsoka to answer for their actions on Corvaris. The council reprimands them for their disobedience and questions their judgment, with Mace Windu suggesting that Ahsoka be reassigned to a different master. Ahsoka, already disillusioned, feels betrayed by the council's lack of understanding and support. Anakin, enraged by what he perceives as the council's hypocrisy, defends Ahsoka, further straining his relationship with the Jedi. He confronts Obi-Wan, accusing him of siding with the council over their friendship. Obi-Wan, deeply hurt, warns Anakin that his emotions are clouding his judgment and that his attachment to Ahsoka is putting them both in danger. The final blow comes when Ahsoka makes a heart-wrenching decision, believing that her presence is only fueling Anakin's descent and that their relationship is no longer healthy. She decides to part ways with him. She meets Anakin in the shadows of the temple, tears streaming down her face as she explains her choice.
I can't do this anymore, Anakin. The Jedi, the war, us, it's tearing me apart. I have to find my own path.
Anakin pleads with her to stay, his fear of losing her mirroring his fear of losing Padme. But Ahsoka, though heartbroken, stands firm. She kisses him one last time before walking away, leaving Anakin shattered and vulnerable. Ahsoka's departure leaves Anakin more isolated than ever, his anger and despair driving him closer to the dark side. Palpatine, watching from the shadows, knows the time is ripe to pull Anakin fully into his web. With the Jedi divided and Anakin's heart broken, the galaxy teeters on the brink of its darkest hour. Anakin, consumed by his emotions, stands at the precipice of a choice that will shape the fate of the galaxy. Ahsoka, alone but resolute, begins a journey to discover her true purpose outside the Order, and Palpatine's shadow looms larger than ever, ready to bring his master plan to fruition. With the galaxy spirals deeper into chaos, the love between Anakin and Ahsoka faces its greatest test. Their secret, once a source of strength, now threatens to unravel as the pressures of war, the Jedi Council's scrutiny, and Palpatine's manipulations close in around them. It now turns into a tale of heartbreak, betrayal, and the final cracks in their bond, setting the stage for the galaxy's darkest chapter. The Jedi Council becomes increasingly aware of Anakin's growing instability and begins to question his loyalty to the Order. Yoda and Mace Windu hold a private meeting, discussing the dark energy that seems to surround him. While Obi-Wan defends Anakin, he too begins to see the changes in his former Padawan, his growing defiance, emotional volatility, and frequent absences. The Council decides to test Anakin's commitment by assigning him a sensitive mission without Ahsoka, hoping to observe his behavior when she isn't by his side. Ahsoka, left behind on Coruscant, is assigned to oversee diplomatic negotiations with a neutral system considering joining the Republic. Although she executes her mission successfully, she feels the weight of the Council's unspoken judgment. Rumors swirl around her and Anakin, making her increasingly paranoid. She begins to wonder if their relationship has doomed not just themselves, but also the ideals they once fought for. Anakin's mission takes him to Eridus, a desert world ravaged by the war and teeming with separatist droids. Palpatine orchestrates the mission as a trap, ensuring Anakin's unit is ambushed and forced into a desperate battle. During the conflict, Anakin experiences vivid visions of Ahsoka in danger, her voice calling out to him through the Force. Distracted and overwhelmed, Anakin makes a reckless decision that leads to heavy losses among his clone troopers. When he finally escapes the trap, Anakin is consumed by guilt and anger, blaming the Jedi Council for sending him into a situation he believes they knew was doomed. Palpatine, ever the puppet master, reaches out to Anakin, comforting him and subtly encouraging his doubts about the Jedi's intentions. He reminds Anakin of the Order's failures, planting seeds of distrust and reinforcing the idea that the Jedi are holding him back from fulfilling his true potential. Meanwhile, Ahsoka continues to unravel. Her time away from Anakin forces her to reflect on their relationship and the growing divide between her beliefs and the Jedi Code. As she navigates the complexities of diplomacy, she encounters a faction of neutral leaders who criticize both the Republic and the Jedi Order, accusing them of perpetuating the war. These conversations plant doubts in Ahsoka's mind about whether the Jedi are truly serving peace or simply pawns in a larger political game. Ahsoka confides her fears to Anakin during a secret meeting, but instead of finding solace, their conversation turns into an argument. Anakin's frustration boils over as he accuses her of losing faith in him and their love. Ahsoka, in turn, points out that Anakin's obsession with control and power is becoming dangerous. Their argument leaves them both shaken, with Ahsoka wondering if their love is as doomed as the galaxy itself. Sensing the rift between Anakin and Ahsoka, Palpatine takes further steps to isolate them. He arranges a private meeting with Ahsoka, presenting himself as a concerned mentor. He praises her bravery and subtly encourages her doubts about the Jedi. Palpatine suggests that the Jedi Order's rigid adherence to their code is the reason for their failures, hinting that perhaps Ahsoka and Anakin's love is not the problem, but the solution. If only they had the freedom to embrace it. Ahsoka, desperate for clarity, begins to see Palpatine as an unexpected ally. Palpatine, sensing her vulnerability, leans forward slightly, his voice calm and coaxing.
You see, Ahsoka, the Jedi would have you believe that love is a weakness. But in truth, it is the fear of love that makes them blind to the power it can bring. Your bond with Anakin, it is not your downfall, it is your strength.
She doesn't trust him fully, but is tempted by his words. Palpatine's manipulation drives a wedge further between her and the Jedi Council, and unknowingly, she becomes a pawn in his larger scheme to push Anakin toward the dark side. The final blow comes during a critical mission to Sereno, Count Dooku's homeworld. Anakin and Ahsoka are sent to lead an assault on a separatist stronghold, rumored to house key war intelligence. The mission is a trap laid by Palpatine to expose their relationship and force a confrontation with the Jedi Council. During the battle, Ahsoka is captured by the separatists. Anakin, consumed by rage and fear, disregards the mission's objectives and leads a reckless rescue operation, abandoning his troops to save her. He finds her in a high-security chamber, barely conscious but alive. In his desperation, he reveals the depth of his feelings for her, vowing to destroy anyone who threatens her. Ahsoka, though grateful to be saved, is horrified by the destruction Anakin has wrought to reach her. The bond they share, once their greatest strength, now feels like a curse, dragging them both further away from who they once were. When Anakin and Ahsoka return to Coruscant, the Jedi Council confronts them with evidence of their relationship. Obi-Wan, devastated but loyal to the Order, admits that he suspected the truth, but hoped they would come to their senses. Yoda and Mace Windu warn that their actions have not only jeopardized the war effort, but also their place within the Jedi Order. Ahsoka, feeling cornered, refuses to apologize. She accuses the Council of being blind to their own hypocrisy, arguing that their rigid code has caused more harm than good. Anakin, driven by his fear of losing her, lashes out at the Council, accusing them of betrayal and narrow-mindedness. The Council deliberates, ultimately deciding to expel Ahsoka from the Order. Anakin is spared due to his role in the war, but is placed on probation and forbidden from further contact with her. Ahsoka's expulsion marks the breaking point. Anakin, furious and heartbroken, feels utterly betrayed by the Order he once served. Ahsoka, now a wanderer, leaves the temple without looking back, determined to find her own path in the galaxy. She kisses Anakin one last time, telling him that while she loves him, their relationship has become too destructive to continue. As Ahsoka disappears into the night, Anakin is left alone in the shadows of the temple. His anger, fear, and grief overwhelm him, leaving him more vulnerable than ever to Palpatine's influence. The galaxy is now gripped by turmoil as Palpatine executes the final phase of his plan. With the Jedi spread thin across the galaxy, the Clone Wars reach a crescendo. Palpatine begins to consolidate power, positioning himself as the savior of the Republic, while sowing distrust toward the Jedi. Propaganda paints the Jedi as power-hungry conspirators attempting to overthrow the Senate. Ahsoka, now a fugitive from the Jedi Order, witnesses firsthand the suffering of ordinary citizens caught in the war. On her journey, she encounters disillusioned clones, betrayed senators, and oppressed civilians who feel abandoned by both the Jedi and the Republic. She begins to understand the extent of Palpatine's influence and realizes that the fight against the Sith is not just a battle of lightsabers, but a battle for the soul of the galaxy. Anakin, reeling from Ahsoka's departure and his growing disillusionment with the Jedi, becomes more entangled in Palpatine's web. Palpatine, sensing Anakin's vulnerability, plays the role of mentor and confidant, feeding his anger and stoking his fears. He promises Anakin the power to save those he loves and bring true order to the galaxy. Haunted by visions of Ahsoka in danger and Padme's possible death, Anakin begins to lose himself. His moments of doubt are fleeting, overshadowed by his growing frustration with the Jedi Council and their perceived failures. The memory of Ahsoka, both her love and her departure, becomes a symbol of everything the Jedi took from him. While investigating a separatist plot on the Outer Rim, Ahsoka uncovers irrefutable evidence of Palpatine's dual identity as Darth Sidious. She learns that he has orchestrated the war from both sides, manipulating the Republic and the Separatists to gain ultimate power. Realizing the enormity of the threat, she decides she must warn Anakin and the Jedi, even if it means risking her life and confronting the Order that cast her out. Ahsoka's journey back to Coruscant is perilous, as she is hunted by both Separatist forces and Republic loyalists who see her as a traitor. Along the way, she reflects on her relationship with Anakin, her faith in the Force, and her role in the galaxy. She resolves to do whatever it takes to save Anakin from falling to the darkness, even if it costs her everything. Ahsoka returns to Coruscant just as Palpatine declares himself Emperor, revealing his true Sith nature. The Jedi, caught off guard, mount a desperate attempt to stop him. Anakin, now fully under Palpatine's influence, is appointed as the enforcer of the Empire, tasked with eliminating the Jedi he once called allies. Ahsoka confronts Anakin in the ruins of the Jedi Temple, which burns in the wake of Palpatine's coup. Their reunion is heart-wrenching, as Ahsoka pleads with Anakin to see the truth and abandon the path of darkness. Anakin, torn between his love for her and his belief that power is the only way to save her and Padme, refuses to listen. Their argument escalates into a duel, a tragic clash between two people who once fought side by side. The battle is as much emotional as it is physical, with each strike fueled by anger, love, and regret. Ahsoka fights not to kill Anakin, but to break through the veil of darkness clouding his mind. Anakin, consumed by rage and despair, accuses Ahsoka of betraying him by leaving and aligning with the Jedi. As the duel reaches its climax, Ahsoka disarms Anakin and delivers a devastating truth. The Jedi did fail him, but Palpatine has been manipulating him from the beginning. She implores him to remember who he truly is, a protector, a brother, and a light in the galaxy's darkness. Anakin falters, his mind racing with memories of their shared battles, their love, and the ideals he once believed in. But Palpatine arrives, seizing the moment to drive a final wedge between them. He attacks Ahsoka, forcing Anakin to choose between saving her and proving his loyalty to the Sith. He sneers, his voice dripping with malice.
Anakin, you are torn, pulled between the woman you love and the destiny I've promised you. But know this, your true power lies in the choices you make now. Let her fall, and your rise will be assured.
In a moment of clarity, Anakin turns on Palpatine, engaging him in a fierce battle. Ahsoka joins the fight, and together they confront the embodiment of the Sith's corruption. The battle is grueling, and though they fight valiantly, Palpatine's power is overwhelming. In a desperate move, Ahsoka sacrifices herself to save Anakin, allowing him the chance to strike the final blow. Her death shatters Anakin, but it also frees him from the darkness that had consumed him. With her last words, Ahsoka tells Anakin to honor her memory by restoring balance to the galaxy. Anakin, now free of Palpatine's influence, takes up the mantle of rebuilding the Jedi Order. He seeks out surviving Jedi and begins the difficult task of reforming the Order. Guided by the lessons he learned from Ahsoka, he also works to dismantle the Empire, rallying the galaxy to resist its tyranny. Ahsoka's sacrifice becomes a symbol of hope for the galaxy, inspiring others to rise against the darkness. Her legacy lives on in the new Jedi Order, which embraces compassion and balance, rather than strict adherence to outdated dogma. In a powerful scene, Anakin standing in the ruins of the Jedi Temple, looking toward the horizon, he feels Ahsoka's presence in the Force, a reminder that even in the face of loss, love and hope can light the way forward. The galaxy begins to heal, and a new era of balance dawns, forged through sacrifice and the enduring power of love.
Until next time, remember, each story is but a spark in a galaxy full of endless possibilities. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, and may the Force be with you always.